Welcome to Fractured Chaos.
They claim blood is thicker than water, but in my house, blood was nothing but a technicality. My name is Vanessa Mitchell, and for 12 years, I've lived a life built on carefully crafted lies. If you're watching this, you're about to witness the moment my entire world imploded. Make sure to like and subscribe. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. I never meant to become the villain of my own story. It wasn't supposed to end this way. 3 children who don't belong to the man who raised them, a husband who sleeps next to a stranger every night, and his brother, my children's real father, who's been living in our shadow for over a decade. Andrew was everything I thought I wanted when we met in graduate school. Ambitious, kind, stable, the type of man my parents dreamed I'd marry. We had a perfect storybook romance, the kind people post about with carefully filtered photos and heartfelt captions. Then I met his brother James at our engagement party. James was everything Andrew wasn't: unpredictable, passionate, with an edge that made my heart race whenever he entered a room. One stolen kiss in Andrew's parents' garden during our engagement celebration was all it took. One mistake that spiraled into years of deception. The first time was an accident, a moment of weakness after a fight with Andrew about wedding plans. James was there with understanding eyes and strong arms. The next morning brought waves of guilt and promises never to let it happen again. But temptation is a patient predator. By the time Andrew and I exchanged vows 6 months later, James and I had already fallen into a dangerous pattern. We tried to stop. At least, that's what I told myself. Every time was supposed to be the last time. Every secret meeting came with renewed promises to end it. But we couldn't stay away from each other. When I discovered I was pregnant with our first child, I convinced myself the baby was Andrew's. The timing was close enough. The doubt gnawed at me through the entire pregnancy. But when Emily was born with those distinctive hazel eyes, James's eyes, I knew the truth. Still, Andrew celebrated becoming a father, none the wiser. 2 years later came Ethan, and 3 years after that, Michael. Each time the same eyes stared back at me, mirrors of the man they should have been calling dad. Each time Andrew proudly showed off photos of his children to colleagues and friends. Each time James stood in the background at family gatherings, playing the role of devoted uncle while exchanging secret glances with me. We developed an elaborate system, coded messages, brief encounters when Andrew traveled for work. James moved just 15 minutes away to be closer to family, and no one questioned it. For years, we maintained our charade flawlessly. Andrew built his career, I raised his children, and James lived on the periphery of our perfect family portrait. It was a Tuesday evening in October when everything fell apart. Andrew came home from work with a strange calmness about him. No kiss on the cheek, no questions about dinner. Just that unnerving stillness as he placed a manila envelope on our kitchen counter. "Open it," he said, voice devoid of emotion. Inside were 3 separate DNA test results. My hands trembled as I flipped through pages of scientific proof that the children sleeping upstairs weren't biologically his. Proof that I'd been living a lie for over a decade. "How long have you known?" I whispered. Andrew's laugh was hollow, empty. "From the beginning, Vanessa. From the very beginning." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. "That's impossible. Is it?" He slid his phone across the counter. "You and James were never as careful as you thought. Photos dating back to our engagement, text messages I thought had been deleted years ago, hotel receipts, every piece of evidence meticulously cataloged and time-stamped. Andrew had known about us before we even got married. Why? I managed to ask. Why would you marry me knowing about James? Andrew's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because taking something my brother wanted was always so satisfying. That's when I realized I'd never truly known the man I married. The quiet, dependable Andrew had been calculating every move for years, but his next words shattered whatever was left of my world. But that's not all I've been keeping from you. He pulled out another phone, one I'd never seen before, and scrolled through images that made me physically ill. Andrew with my younger sister Claire, Andrew with my college roommate Sarah, Andrew with women I'd never seen before, and then came the bombshell. Andrew with children who looked just like him. "Meet my real family," he said coldly. 3 children, all mine, all with women who knew exactly who they were dealing with. I felt dizzy, trying to process this new reality. All these years I'd carried the burden of guilt, believing I was the sole betrayer. But Andrew had orchestrated a far more elaborate deception. "Did you ever love me at all?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Love was never part of our arrangement," he replied. Though I admit, watching you and James thinking you were getting away with something was entertaining. That night, as Andrew slept in our guest room, I lay awake realizing everything in my life had been a calculated move in someone else's game. James wasn't my secret, he was a pawn. I wasn't the chess master, I was just another piece on the board. But morning brings clarity, and with it came a resolve I'd never felt before. If Andrew thought exposing our secrets would destroy me, he'd severely underestimated what I was capable of. I contacted James first, showing him everything Andrew had revealed. His shock was genuine, at least one truth in this web of lies. Together, we began untangling years of manipulation. While Andrew was at work, I dug deeper into his secret life. His password patterns hadn't changed in years. His private email revealed offshore accounts, suspicious business dealings, and evidence of financial fraud that would interest not just divorce attorneys, but federal investigators. I learned that my sister Claire had never actually slept with Andrew. Those photos were cleverly edited to appear intimate when they were innocent. Sarah confirmed the same thing when I called her. Andrew had fabricated evidence of affairs to match my real one. The children he claimed were his, they belonged to his business partner, whose family photos Andrew had saved and edited. There were no secret families, just more elaborate lies designed to make me feel as guilty as he wanted me to feel. Andrew had created an intricate house of cards, never expecting anyone to examine the foundation. But now I had everything I needed to bring it all crashing down. I wasn't interested in a messy public divorce. Instead, I transferred the children to a new school district, using Andrew's own forged signatures, a skill I'd perfected over years of signing permission slips while he was traveling. I emptied our joint accounts and documented his financial crimes. I gathered evidence of his psychological manipulation and prepared custody paperwork. When Andrew came home 3 days later, the house was empty. No children's laughter, no dinner cooking, no wife waiting, just a USB drive on the kitchen counter next to divorce papers. "You have 2 choices," I told him over the phone when he called in a rage. "Sign everything as is and walk away, or watch as everything you've built comes crashing down. The FBI would be very interested in those offshore accounts." He tried threats. He tried pleading. He even tried to convince me he'd fabricated the evidence of his affairs to teach me a lesson. But the power had shifted. "You taught me something valuable, Andrew," I said. "You taught me that secrets only have power when they remain hidden." In the end, he signed everything. His precious reputation meant more to him than fighting for children who weren't biologically his anyway. As for James, that chapter closed too. The fantasy of our forbidden romance couldn't survive in the harsh light of reality. With Andrew's manipulation exposed, we both realized we'd been players in someone else's twisted game. When I told James I needed time to rebuild my life without either of the Mitchell brothers, he understood. Some fires burned too hot to sustain, and ours had consumed everything in its path. I expected the weeks after Andrew's departure to feel empty. Instead, they felt like the first clean breaths after years of drowning. The children asked questions, of course. Where was Dad? Why had we moved? I told them age-appropriate truths. Sometimes adults make mistakes, sometimes relationships break, but they were loved and safe. The rest could wait until they were ready. 6 months after leaving Andrew, I received a package. Inside was a handwritten confession detailing every manipulation, every lie, every scheme he'd orchestrated during our marriage. Along with it was a trust fund he'd established for the children, not out of love, but out of pride. Andrew couldn't stand the thought of his children, biological or not, living without the Mitchell name carrying weight. Even in defeat, his ego remained intact. I considered burning the letter, but instead locked it away. Someday, it might answer questions my children would ask, questions I couldn't answer alone. The most unexpected twist came a year later. I was reviewing financial documents when I discovered something Andrew had missed in his meticulous cover-up, evidence that James had tried to end their toxic competition years ago. Messages showing James had attempted to confess our affair before the wedding, before the children. Andrew had manipulated both of us, dangling each as bait for the other, feeding on the dysfunction he'd created. When I confronted James with this evidence, he broke down. "I wanted to tell you so many times," he admitted. "But Andrew always had something on me. Some reason why exposing the truth would hurt you more than help you. The revelation didn't repair what was broken between us, but it helped me understand. We had all been caught in Andrew's web, each of us playing our assigned roles in his private theater. Today marks 3 years since I walked away from my hollow marriage. The children are flourishing, Emily excelling in science, Ethan discovering a passion for music, and Michael charming everyone with his infectious laugh. They know James as their biological father now, a truth I shared when they began asking questions that deserved honest answers. We've built a new kind of family, not conventional, but authentic. Andrew remarried last spring to a woman who looks remarkably like me. I sent them a wedding gift, a beautifully framed set of playing cards, queens and kings, jokers and aces, a reminder that I understand the game now. As for me, I finished my long-abandoned law degree and now specialize in helping women navigate complex divorces. I've learned that strength isn't found in perfect facades or elaborate deceptions. It's found in the quiet courage to face truth, however uncomfortable it might be. The most powerful lesson came from my children. One evening, as Emily helped me prepare dinner, she asked, "Mom, are you sad about how everything happened with Dad and Uncle James?" I considered my answer carefully. "I regret the lies," I told her, "but I can never regret the path that led me to you 3. She nodded with wisdom beyond her years. Then it was worth it. And she was right. The web of deception had ensnared us all. But from those tangled threads, something genuine emerged. My children, my truth, my second chance. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Lies may build empires, but truth builds legacies. Andrew's carefully constructed kingdom collapsed under the weight of its own deception. But here we stand. Emily, Ethan, Michael, and me, stronger for having weathered the storm. The Mitchell brothers thought they were writing my story. They never expected I'd pick up the pen and create my own ending. An ending where truth, however painful, sets you free. An ending where broken pieces create a beautiful mosaic. An ending that's really just the beginning. Because that's the thing about endings. The best ones open doors to something far better than you ever imagined possible. Remember to like and subscribe. Next week, I'll be sharing how to recognize the warning signs I missed. Trust me, after everything I've been through, this is advice you won't want to miss.